crafters, my name's Raquel from Paints and Glitter, and I'm a crafter for Tonic Studios. Today I'm coming along to craft with you using a box of memories, my memory book die set, and the Autumnal Moments paper collection. This paper collection contains 36 sheets of 8x8 papers. They are 200 GSM in weight. There's 3 each of 9 double-sided designs, 3 that contain foil designs. There are also 12 foiled tags and stamps, and they do coordinate with the tags and stamps die set. So if you happen to have that already, you'll be able to get some use out of that again. If not, then I'll show you what you can cut with those. So I'll just flip this over right away. And these are the tags and stamps that you can cut out. So if you happen to have that tag and stamp collection, then you'll know that these coincide with the layers, and you can cut out these little pieces here as well with these beautiful images. If not, then you can definitely pick that up from Tonic Studios, so you can take advantage of these beautiful shapes here to adorn your box of memory. Here, I'm just going to show you the papers. So again, there are 3 each, but you're going to see these beautiful colors that they have. The patterns are just lovely for the fall. There's also these here with the pretty pumpkins. And of course, this is a perfect autumnal theme. The back looks like this. Some of the papers are a little bit darker, but they all have these really wonderful images of pine cones, florals, and the like. So you get different hues of the same type of designs. This one has a little bit of green with the leaves. It's very pretty. The back of this one's just very subtle with leaf designs, more florals in different hues. There's these leaves here in a lighter tan. And then you get into some that do have some sentiments that you can cut out with the dies that you'll see in a moment. And if you flip it over, you still have more sentiments that you can use in a different hue. Leaves fall, but love stands tall. Remember that autumn. In every falling leaf, there's a tale of love to cherish. Cozy nights and home lights. Just so pretty. And then there are these darker ones, but with really beautiful sentiments as well. Then there's leaves may fall, but our friendship holds firm. So as you see there are different sentiments that are really beautiful, whether it be a love theme, a family theme, friendship. You have many choices there. Then you have these images that are so darling, and these are little critters that you may see in the fall, but they are in different types of postcards, and the images are just so sweet. They're arranged differently on each side, but they still have, for instance, that little doe, the hare, the hedgehog, and the squirrel, and that a darling little owl there. Then you get into the foiled papers. So again, you do get 3 of each. And this one's got that gorgeous coppery tone there. And the back just has more of those fall themed images. This one's also foiled with florals. These are the last images, and they also have those lovely clusters there. And on one side, they do have the foiling with different sentiments that you can cut out. And on the other, they are simple like this, but still just as gorgeous. So depending on your taste, you can use either or, and these are perfect for small cards as well. Now that you've seen the papers, let me show you the dies. This is a 53-piece die set, and what I'll explain right off the bat is that you can create different size boxes, and what you'll see is that you can also create a memory book that is like an explosion box. So That's going to be a lot of fun to make. Now, the hexagons that you see here do come in pairs. So for each pair, the larger one will be the lid, the smaller one will be the base. For each lid, you also have sides. So for instance, this large die here is actually going to coincide with the largest hexagon, and so on and so forth. The second one will use this one, the third and the fourth, and that way you can cut these strips out and join them together to create what's going to be the perimeter, of your lids. There's also 4 different sentiments that you can cut out. This one says friends, this one says memories, this one says family, and on this day there are 2 little stars, 2 little hearts, some really beautiful little layers there. And there's also these here that will allow you to create little pockets with inserts. So you get 2 different sizes there. And then you also have 4 different sizes of pages that you can add to the outside perimeter of your little boxes for that explosion effect. Or you can, of course, create those into different tags, and you even have a little closure there that you can make with these little tabs here. So a lot of fun. I'm going to start cutting papers. As you can see, I've already gotten started, and then we'll start creating with these beautiful dies. For this tutorial, we're going to start out with the largest hexagon couple. That's what I'm going to refer to it as. And then we're going to skip one size and go down to the third one here. So the third out of 4. And I'll explain as I construct this so that it's easy for you to understand how easy it is to use this. And what I've done is that I'm going to start here with the lid. So again, using that largest hexagon, you can go ahead and cut that out twice. I've used 300 GSM card, and for this to become a lid, which is what we're going to make first, you can of course decorate it using the other hexagons included. And so here I've cut that beautiful paper and also backed that up with a ring of gray paper there. So that way you can see the contrast from that die that will cut into that background and allow you to make this a little bit more decorative. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to adhere this on here first. Apply this onto this base. Okay, I'm setting this aside for a moment because on the other piece, before I finish decorating that, on here you're going to adhere the sides. So you're going to want to cut this piece here, which is the largest of the sides, 3 times, and make sure that you fold and burnish the tabs and the center fold line. So I'm simply going to burnish this gently. And I am using the smooth black card from Tonic Studios, which is nice and heavy. And it's got the little tab at the end. Now this, of course, is going to create the sides of this lid, and you can definitely decorate it. So one of the things that you can do is cut out layers that look like this. So I've used the solid die to cut out that beautiful pearlescent paper. Then I used, with a different cardstock, one of the inlay dies, and as you can see, you then get that decorative strip. But of course I've also used drops to decorate that, and then I've used some little gems from my stash. So this can layer right on top, and this is definitely something you can decorate while it's still flat. The tabs are going to face the lid, but I wanted to point out that there is also this little tab here that will allow you to close this. So what I'm going to do is use that fold line as the gauge there, and I am going to adhere this onto one of these sides. There's, again, a total of 3. I'm going to try to center this, and of course you could adhere it on top, but because I've decorated that with quite a bit of dimension, that I'm going to add it there and then cover it with a second layer here. And I'm going to just do this to prep this before I start the assembly. because the next thing that you want to do is gather the remaining strips. So there, of course, there's a total of 3 here for all of your sides. And now you can adhere these end to end. And this is going to create one long strip. I'm going to go ahead and adhere the next one to this tab here to create one long strip, and when this is nice and dry, I'll be right back. Now that I have this nice long strip, I've got my hexagon, and what I'm going to do is adhere this to each one of these tabs, going all the way around the perimeter. Now, if you're not comfortable doing it as one long strip, of course, you could do the 3 sides individually. I just thought that this would be an easy way to get this done. And I'm going to actually place the hexagon edge on top of the tab. This will then become the inside of the lid. And I'm going to continue this for all 6 sides, wrapping this all the way around. And you can be gentle with it, of course. So make sure this meets the edge. Apply pressure there on the edge very gently. Once you reach the end, of course, you can add adhesive to this tab and make sure you adhere that toward the inside. So again, this is now going to be the inside of the lid. I'm going to now flip this over and apply adhesive to what's going to be the decorative portion I'm going to place on top. And just making sure that that meets all of the little corners here. I'll then apply pressure. So I'm going to flip this over, that way I can apply a good amount of pressure and make sure that this adheres all the way around. And that's why I did the construction in this manner, was so that I could go ahead and apply pressure to that layer. Okay, so we now have our lid, and we have the little tab on the side that's going to help us close this box. And you can now fold it out if you want to, so if you need to hold it like this to keep decorating it. And if you would like to, you can now go ahead and decorate it with a next layer. I wanted to share with you that depending on how you use the dies, you can create these little apertures to layer on top. So of course you can create one for this larger one. I've created one for this layer here, and I did use the paper that has a sentiment. It says leaves fall but love stands tall. I thought that was really pretty, and as you can tell, I'm using gold mirror card. So I'm just going to adhere this first. That's going to go right on top, and while that's drying, we can create the base. We've just created that lid using the largest die in the set, that's a hexagon. So using the next one that follows it, we're going to create the base. You can cut that out twice, and that's what I've done here. And you can also use the largest die that allows you to create the side. And that's going to be this rectangle with a little tab at the bottom. And what you can do is you can decorate the inside and the outside, so it's up to you. But let me show you here one of the layers that you can add, which is the pocket. This can be cut using the largest pocket die available, and you'll know because it's got a little notch there and 3 separate tabs. And you can further decorate this if you would like to with another layer included. And what I have done for mine is that I use the same dies that you can use to decorate the actual outer border of the boxes, and I just use that to cut into that layer. And as you can tell, I've decorated it using drops, and I've also used vellum on the back so that it could have a nice little effect there. I felt that with these strong colors, something soft like vellum could look very nice as a contrast here, and I'm really happy with the results. So I'm just going to adhere this layer first onto this pocket layer. And of course, to create the inserts, you can either just use photos, or depending on the use of this box, you can use ephemera. It depends on how you intend to use this, but it's a perfect opportunity to then add many photos here. And what I'll do now is on here, you'll notice there's a tab at the bottom. You want to make sure you fold and burnish that. Flip it over so that you're facing the valley fold, okay? That's where you're going to be able to adhere this so that it faces the inside of the box. And you can adhere this using all 3 tabs. The pointer I'm going to give you here is that you want to make sure you start at the top of what will essentially be your page. So that way this does not compete with the fold line at the bottom. And that's going to be very important when you assemble this. And then once you have that placed where you need it, go ahead and apply gentle pressure there. If you need to, you can certainly use pegs or clips to hold this for you while it's drying. Once you have adhered the little pockets to the inside of what will be your pages, you can, of course, if you would like to, decorate the outside, which is what I'll be doing using this decorative paper with the florals. I'm just going to have this fit right here. Just like that. And now that you have your little side panels decorated on the inside and the outside as you wish, if you don't want to make them this elaborate, you can of course just use the papers from this beautiful collection. And here I have 3 different ones that I've created the pockets just using that decorative cardstock. I think it's so pretty that I wanted to alternate it. So we can take one of the hexagons for the base, and now just start adding these all along the perimeter as we did with the lid. So I have all 6 of my little panels here. I'm going to be adding adhesive along that bottom tab and having that meet the outer edge of that hexagon. And now I can apply pressure here. And this is why it was important to make sure that that little pocket did not compete with that fold line on the bottom. If you want to, you can flip it over just to double check that that's meeting the edge there and apply pressure. And I'll be alternating the ones with the pockets. Once you have all 6 of your side panels added, you can flip this over, and to hide all of these tabs, you can now go ahead and add a second hexagon here. Once you've constructed this base, you can flip this over, and if you would like to, what I'll be doing is that I'm actually going to be adding the decorative layer here, and as you can see, I've used some mirror card behind this. So I did the same thing by using 2 hexagons. I created this layer here so as to not use all of the paper that would have unnecessarily be wasted here. So I'm going to just add this here in the center. This can go right here. I think it'll look really pretty. On top of this, I'm going to add another decorative layer. As you can see, I've done the same thing and created a golden hexagon out of that mirror card. This time I didn't use the little strip there that would have cut into that layer, but it goes without saying you can pick and choose. But you'll notice that I have adhered a magnet here, and I've done that quite on purpose. So I'm going to add adhesive here. And this is going to be my uppermost layer on the center. Now I wanted to mention that the color that I've added here as the mirror card, which I'll be using in this project, and that's the one that you see glistening there, not the gold, is actually the Indian Summer mirror card from Tonic Studios. It has beautiful colors that are just perfect for this project, and so as you see there, it's got the lavenders and the reds, just beautiful, beautiful, perfect for any fall themed project, and that's what I've used here. I've also gone ahead and used different drops. So the first one that I use is a glitter drop here called Harvest Moon, and this is an older drop from Tonic Studios, but that's what I use on these panels here with the vellum. And then the other more subtle drop there was the vintage drop that dries as a matte color, and that is Gilded Gold. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Now of course here you can keep decorating these panels. It depends on how much you want to add to the center. Then just make sure you gather these all around, and starting at one end, if you would like, you can start grouping these together so you get to see how this is going to work. You will then choose on which one of these you will add the closure, but let me show you what the side looks like now. Okay, it has the same colors all the way around, the difference being that 3 of these have pockets and 3 of them do not have the same bulk in the pockets. So I wanted to show you that in case it shows up a little bit there on the edges and you notice that. Maybe that's something that is okay with you, maybe it's not. If you want them to be a little bit closer together there, then you will have to opt for the thinner paper rather than the bulky paper that I chose. And I just wanted to make sure that I did bring that up in case it's important to you. You get to close it using that tab. To create the closure, you have a die that's going to cut 2 pieces that look like this. You can fold them as a valley fold along the score line, and then apply adhesive only to the perimeter of that little circle there, a little opening, just a tiny bit there. I like to brush off any excess or just kind of pounce that. And then add the second one as a mirror image right on top, and make sure you hold it together so it'll dry. You can then open that this is where you're going to apply the adhesive that will attach this to the side of your box. Once it's nice and dry, feed it through the opening of your little latch so you get your placement ready right there. Now go ahead and apply adhesive to those two little tabs, and then fold that right back down so you get perfect placement there of that little latch. And of course you can now tie this off with a ribbon or roll a piece of paper that will fit through it, or use one of the other die sets that has the little lock, and that would look absolutely gorgeous here as well. But I wanted to show you the side profile there of how this is going to allow you to close this. For the next size down, I'm going to repeat the steps of construction, which is going to be to cut two of the pieces for the lid construction that measure the same exact size, and to that I'm going to adhere the little tabs that go all the way around. If you're curious, I am using the Boysenberry Purple craft card layered behind that Indian Summer. I'm going to be adding this to this Misty Gray cardstock. And I just wanted to give you an example of a different color combination, but these can go on here. Such a pretty color combination. Once you have those added, as we did before, you're going to match these end to end. These can go right along each other there. I'm going to repeat the construction the same way just because it is easier for me. Just apply that hexagon along the edge of that tab and apply pressure there. You can again flip this over and apply the second hexagon right on top, making sure those corners meet all the way around. A nice clean finish there. And then you can flip that over and apply pressure nicely. To have that assembled, you can, of course, decorate this as well. I've chosen, again, a decorative piece that I cut, and on the other side it's got those pumpkins. So of course, whichever side you prefer is fine. And I've also cut a layer with the decorative die on the perimeter there. And this time, this is going to be the bottom layer that's going to face the top of this box. This can go right on top here. And set that aside to dry now. For the base, we can go ahead and cut 2 more hexagons as before, and then you can also decorate 6 of the side panels that are going to fit along the edge. For this, you can also create the little pockets the same way you did for the larger page. And for these, of course, you can use any paper that you have to create little inserts. You can decorate them on the inside or the outside. It depends on your personal preference there. And as you can see here, I've created layers for the outer edge as well, or the outer side of this. And I've layered these papers together, and I'm just going to adhere these onto each one of them. So of course you also need another 6 to create this smaller box. And I'm going to be alternating these colors, as you see here. I've got for some of these also some layers that I've cut out from the paper collection and also backed up with that mirror card. I thought this would be really pretty just to add here. Add it to these, whether it be topsy-turvy or not, it doesn't really matter. And then there are hearts that you can cut out as well as stars. So what I've done is that I've cut a few of the little hearts out, and you can add these wherever you like, of course, in whichever color combination. There are 2 different sizes, and I thought that would be really pretty to use. So here you get to see I have 3 of the little pages that will have little tuck spots there, and then on the other 3 I'm just going to be adding the sentiments with the little hearts in gold. And once you have that ready, you can then adhere these along the bottom edge as well. And you may want to make sure that they can stand up nicely before you apply pressure, in case you're worried about that. Once all of these sides have dried nicely, you can go ahead and place a second magnet here if you would like to. And I'm going to be covering it up with these 3 layers here. So you can see this decorative layer has the leaves on it. Very pretty. And I'm placing that on top of a layer that is made of this tan card that I've used throughout this project, which can then go on top of this decorative layer that I cut with the different little layer that you can place right there for more of that beautiful texture. This can now cover up this little magnet I placed there, and it's just going to go right here in the center. Very pretty. This is now going to close, but before I do that I am going to flip it over and finish this underneath with a second hexagon. Just make sure this is nice and clean. That way when it gets removed from the larger box, it still looks really pretty. Okay, once you have adorned everything, decorated everything, then of course you can fit the smaller box inside of the center of the larger one. And what's neat is that because it has the hidden magnet, this is going to stay put. In fact, I can show you, you can lift this all as one piece if you wanted to. So if you use nice strong magnets, it'll stay put together. But of course you can now close this after you've placed any photos inside. So what I did was to place the heavy cardstock in here. So that way I have little photo mats that I can use. And if you want to, you can further decorate this, whether it be by adding even more pictures here and creating the little tuck spots as I have done there. And of course that's just easy enough as just not adding adhesive on the entire embellishment, but you can also add more embellishments to the outside. So you definitely have tons of opportunities here for photos, because you can treat these as photo mats as well. And once you close this, and here I just added a little bee charm. I like to add little bees to my projects. So that's going to close with this lid, easy enough. Fit right inside, as I mentioned before. And then this one will fit right on top. So I've gone ahead and used some dies from Tonic Studios that I already had to create a little leaf cluster and also a little dragonfly. And I'm going to use that as the topper here. So you do have to play with this just a little bit to get that in here. But I wanted to mention that you can use the cut aparts if you would like to from the collection, as I've done here, to fit them inside. So if you really like those images as much as I did, then you could take advantage of that and have them in here. And then on the opposite side, you can leave it as is if you like to just have pretty papers, or you can add a photo on one side and then keep that pretty image on the other. And of course they fit perfectly in here. But I really think this paper collection is so gorgeous. And here's that little cluster that I was talking about, although I do have to move this because the closure is over here. Okay, like that. All right, but here you see I just added some little leaves, and I also added that little dragonfly, and then just some little gems from my stash. These are all Tonic Studios papers, including some of the papers from this new collection. The other ones are just mirror card and satin card and some vellum. And then that glitter card I used for the center of that little dragonfly. And now I just have to close this with a little piece of ribbon. I do have a piece of organza ribbon here. And of course you could order satin ribbon from Tonic Studios if you would like. And that way you can tie it really pretty here for your closure. And I'm going to just go ahead and cut any little excess here on the tails to make sure that's nice and pretty. So this completes this video tutorial. I do hope that you have enjoyed it. I've had so much fun crafting with these new dies and these gorgeous papers. Don't forget that you can grab them with the links available in the description bar of this video. You can also go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel and join us over at the official Facebook page for tonicstudios.com, where you can share your projects and tag it with the hashtag #ShowTonic so that everyone else can see them as well. And as I always say, I do hope that you can be inspired and be blessed, and I thank you so much for watching.